Lisa Copeland, and I want to invite you to my show, The Big Sell. Are you ready to stop being a small player in a big world? Are you ready to decommoditize your business? Are you ready to stand aside from the competition? Join me every week on The Big Sell. President of Kelly Automotive Group and a partner there. But he's also an Amazon best-selling author with his latest and his new first book, Theory of Five. Chris Saraceno, how are you, Chris?
Excellent. How about you?
I am fantastic. Well, first of all, more than anything, I want to congratulate you that your first day on Amazon, you made what, the top 10, the top 5?
Number 7 was the top number we were at. I was thrilled. Our family were thrilled about it, so we're very excited.
Well, congratulations. That's a very, very...
And that was under the ebook. Thank you very much. That was under the ebook self-help category.
Oh, that is so exciting. Well, you and I met back in 2012 in Miami, Florida, yes, at Automotive Leadership. So thank you, Justin and Sean, if you guys are out there watching. Justin's been on my show before. And I had just announced that I had sold my dealership, and I was literally like, I had just announced it, just did the automotive news thing, and then I was flying to ALR to speak. And you were so kind, and you walked up to me afterwards and you're like, you know what, you're going to do great. And you were just so encouraging. We didn't even really know each other, you know, and you were just, I think that we might've met the year before though, but you were like the first person that walked up to me, and I will never, ever forget that. Cause you know, it's really hard to step out of a high profile gig. And anyways, and you've just always been the nicest person. And I knew you as an automotive executive and a dealer principal, but I didn't know your backstory. And I didn't know until, you know, probably the last year or so when you and I spoke and you told me that you were writing this book. And I want you to tell everybody about your book, The Theory of Five. And I want to start with, how did you come up with the name, The Theory of Five?
Well, really, since I was 21 years old, and that was back in 1983, I was working out with a friend of mine and owned a big amusement park in the Lehigh Valley, Pennsylvania. And we talked about the key areas of life and what makes people so successful, prosperous. And we really looked at the 5 areas that are most important. We looked at it and said, relationships, marriage or relationship is one area. Spirituality, we thought, was another area that if you had that in your life and excelled, you would be happy and prosperous. Once you're a parent, we looked at it and said, hey, once you have children, you know, part of our job at that, make sure they could survive and thrive on their own. So one was parenting, and then business and finance. Of course, finances affects everything, and we're at work more than we are with our family. And last but not least of the 5 is health and fitness, because, you know, all that is meaningless. You could have all the money and a great family, but if you're not healthy and you're not taking care of yourself, we looked at that and said that's meaningless. So that's really the 5 theories: are relationships, spirituality, parenting, business and finance, and then health and fitness are those 5 categories. And, you know, as I mentioned to you when we met in Orlando, that, you know, over the last 2 years, had some personal tragedies. I always felt like I was, but we've had, you know, some deaths in the family of my nephew and my stepson. 2 of my dear friends have passed. My father was diagnosed with Alzheimer's. I'm his caretaker. So with those events, I sort of looked at life and said, to share the story of the Theory of Five and how mentors have changed my life and my friends' lives, that, you know, this would be the time to share that story. So the Theory of Five is really about the story of people and how they can help one another, being it's a mentor, co-mentors, or just friends. And as every parent out there knows, is that we all say to our children, you are who you hang out with, and we're all concerned who they hang out with. It doesn't change being that you're fit with every single day, or the difference between us excelling in life or having an average life.
I'll tell you, Chris. And so tell me again, we had a little bit of a cutout. When you and your friend came up with the actual Theory of Five, how many years ago was that? The actual premise of the Theory of Five?
That was in 1984.
So in
was the
84,
premise. And since then, since 97, in 97 is when I was the vice president of Kelly, and that's when I started sharing the story in the orientation to every new team member. And then since 2002, 2005, I started speaking at different engagements. And usually when I would speak, I talk about automotive. And if there was any time left, I would share the theory of five. And I'd always have people coming up to me at the end. They would say, Chris, we really enjoyed the five. You need to talk more about that. And I've had, dozens of people over the years say, you should share. I just really wasn't compelled to do that until, the things that happened in my life. And I really feel from the bottom of my heart, it's a book that when people read it, it's going to be something that inspires them, that everybody's going to look at it and say, hey, I understand. I can see this in me. I can see the areas in my life. And rarely have I met somebody that excels in all five areas. They may be great at three and good at two, but there's always somebody out there that iron sharpens iron, where you continue to keep growing in those areas.
I was going to say, I would think that, none of us are going to be good in every area, but at least gives us a roadmap to try to improve in the areas we know we're weak. So I'm going to come back to the book in just a minute. I want to hear about the award-winning Kelly Automotive Group. What has been your journey with them? And tell us what kind of brands you guys carry. I know you guys are big sellers. You're big producers.
Well, I started with them it's 1989. I started selling cars with them. So I worked at one other dealership before that for 5 years, and they recruited me to come over. Within 18 months, I went from selling to being the general manager of the first Saturn store that the Kelly Automotive Group had. And very similar to your Fiat experience, is that for when we had Saturn opened in 1991, and we were also ranked number one in CSI in the country. And then after doing that, I actually was hired by Saturn Corporation to develop their Saturn sales process. So I worked with Saturn for 4 or 5 years with a couple other lead trainers, and then the Kellys hired me back in 1997 as their vice president.
I actually remember that now. I remember that was mine and your little bonding thing, was the Saturn Fiat deal. And just kind of crazy moments in time that, you have the opportunity to kind of leave your legacy or your thumbprint on a brand, right? And after reading Automotive News today, it looks like Fiat could go the same path as Saturn did, which is kind of breaks my heart. But anyways, yeah. Okay, so you came back to Kelly.
Well, I will say that, Lisa, when I first started admiring you, when I would watch you on Dealer Elite, and I CEOs, and I saw much of my Saturn days and Saturn and how you were excelling, throughout the country, as really as one of the dominant players and leaders at Fiat. That's really where my admiration for you first started.
Oh, you're so sweet. Thank you. Hey, I think every experience we have in life takes us on a journey, and and you meet amazing people along the way, like I got to meet you. So tell me, what does your day look like now at Kelly Automotive Group? How many stores do you guys have? How many brands do you represent?
Well, it depends on, and today they say we have, right now we have 2 risk-free used car centers, new car franchises. We have Ford, we have Nissan, well, we have Mitsubishi, we have Buick GMC, we have Chrysler Dodge Jeep. So
you're a Mitsu dealer. So you're about to do this whole deal over again.
Yeah. So since 1934, we've been around. So it's been a family-owned business. And at one point, we were in 3 different states. We had 12 stores. We were ranked the 93rd largest dealer group. And then the family sort of divided, and some family members bought out. And I went with the division where Greg Kelly, who's my age, he's 56 years old, and Tim Kelly ended up separating the company. And we ended up, that's when I became a partner in Morris.
Well, congratulations. They're a wonderful company. And, you and I would not have met at Automotive Leadership Roundtable if you guys were not one of the top sellers in the country. So congratulations on that. But I want to dig into Theory of Five.
Well, thank you. Thank you very much.
Well, you're welcome. I remember talking to you about a year ago, and I even still remember where I was sitting. I was sitting in my husband's office up front at the front of my house, and I was talking to you, and you were kind of telling me, we had said, like, well, let's just touch base. And you were telling me everything your family had just recently endured. Your stepson, your nephew. I don't know that you had both of your friends pass away at that time. I think I heard that in Orlando. And I know that your wife has been on a battle of her own. And I just remember asking you.
She's had 2 bouts of cancer. And, fortunately, everything is going great. She's healthy as can be. And, and we believe she has completely beat it.
Well, she looks beautiful because I see her pictures on Facebook, so you would never know. She looks absolutely amazing.
Thank you.
So talk to me about your nephew and your stepson, because it's an epidemic in this country, and I think it's something important for people to talk about.
Well, I believe that most people believe that, it happens to other people. But my nephew, wonderfully kind, happy, healthy person, had everybody laughing. And my stepson might have been one of the kindest, brightest people I've ever met. The wrong thing, and we really don't have all the details right now, but our family's crushed. But as you can imagine, it's something that you never get over.
Right, absolutely. But
I do believe that part of the theory of 5 is surrounding yourself with people that want to be great in these 5 categories and want to excel. And that statement of iron sharpens iron, being that it's in business or in sports. But we took those 5 main categories in that theory, and we believe that your income becomes the average of your 5 closest friends. We believe that as a husband, a wife, a parent, that's the same thing. You take your 5 closest people that you surround yourself with, you start thinking like them. And you start thinking that way, being that it's somebody that's negging you out and feeding you bad information, and you start thinking, we call it stinking thinking, or that you're somebody that just starts to believe that you could excel in life in every area.
Right. I mean, and don't you believe that so much of success and of failure starts right here? Like, so what I call stinking thinking, that's what you call it. I mean, I call it head trash, and it's so easy to fill your head with head trash, and when I speak, I talk about the fact that danger is real and fear is a choice. Danger is real when the house is burning down, right? And fear is a choice, because 96%, according to Psychology Today, of what we fear never materializes. So I think it's so important that when books like yours come out that tell us, you've got to be intentional, number one, about who your circle of your tribe, I call it a tribe, but your circle of people are, that you're around the people that help you be the best in those 5 areas, and that you hold yourself accountable, and then you hold your tribe accountable. How do you use the theory of 5 managing car dealerships? And I know lots of car dealers, if they're not on this right now, they're going to be on it later. And so I'm just telling you right now, it could be a bestseller for managing an automotive platform.
Well, we're believers that you treat everybody no different than your best friend, your relative, your mother, your father, your children. How do you want them treated at a job or position? What information would you want them to have? That's how we run a car dealer. I do believe that it's easy to say you leave work at work and home at home, but you know what? That's really not reality. If somebody doesn't have a life where they don't understand they may be good at selling, or at work, but they don't understand how to manage finances. So we're big believers that in all areas of life, being that it's their health and fitness, being that it's their relationships they have, being their children, being a parent. We've all had people at work in business that all of a sudden they have issues with children, and all of a sudden they're not functioning properly at work because of that. So we believe that all the 5 theories will help everybody in every business, because if you have that mindset as far as understanding your finances, you're healthy, you have good relationships with your spouse, you have great relationships with your children, and you have that spiritual mindset, and you really have that mindset of being a servant leader, those are the leaders that excel. And some of the leaders that are in the book that I've talked to, of course, everybody knows Dale Pollack. You have Chip Perry is on there. Sean Woofington and David Boyce are on there. Jim O'Connor, the former president of Ford Motor Company, is on there. Jerry Pyle is somebody that I interview, and he's on that in the book. And Jerry Pyle was the president of Gulf States Toyota. Grant Cardone is in the book. I have a gentleman by the name of Lee Kemp, who is a Ford dealer, who also was a 4-time world champion in wrestling, a 3-time national champion, and an Olympic coach. And my personal parenting mentor, who has worked with me at Saturn Corporation, Evelyn Longsworth. I look at her as maybe one of the best parents I've ever met. And she's really the one that when I first met that gave me the guidance as a parent. She said, look at it no different than you would look at, you look at it as if when you have your child, that at 18 years old, if you weren't going to be around, how would you raise them? You would do everything you could between the age they were born to the time they were 18 to make sure they could not only survive, but they could thrive on their own. And we would probably treat them different. We'd be firm, we'd be fair, we would be loving. It's sort of like a bird in a nest. Once that 18 years old is a great age to say, hey, they have to be able to fly and survive on their own.
So, Chris, how many kids do you have?
I have 4.
And you've got some grandkids,
so we have
too.
three girls. I do. We have 4 grandchildren also.
Yes, I love seeing pictures of them. So let me ask you, for somebody. Oh, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. We have a bit of a delay, everybody. So that's why he and I feel like we're stepping on each other. Not sure why that's going on, but hey, we just push through it. For somebody who wants to manage a sales team, this shows big sellers, by the theory of 5, and you think, okay, I want to, number one, I would think you have to hire to the theory of 5, right? That would be part of your hiring process. Who are these people? What do they believe?
Yes,
all of that.
Absolutely.
But then how do you show discipline? Because
I would say that our
so when you bring employees in under that family mentality, and then something goes wrong, you have to discipline them. You have to do something. How, do you handle it differently than you think you would have before you live the theory of 5, or I mean, do you know what I'm trying to say? For somebody who communicates for a living, I don't feel like I'm saying it very well, but
I would tell you that I believe, because I've been talking about the theory of 5 since I'm in my early 20s, that I've always looked at everybody of how would I want, my best friend, how would I want a relative treated when they do something wrong? No, it's because if you bring somebody on the organization, you have an obligation to make sure they could support themselves and support their family.
Right.
And that the daily activities and having a plan every day is important. And if we're going to sit down and talk to them, it's about what's your plan. And the reason we're going to sit down and hold them accountable and be very specific in the activities we expect from them is because we do care about them and we want them to sell. And we do have an obligation to make sure that once they join our team, that they can support themselves and their family. And when you keep reminding them, that's why you're doing this. And that's why you're reminding them to make the phone calls and do the things that they need to do to be successful. It's not because you're trying to be nasty. It's not because you want to be cruel. It's because you care. No different than you would care about your children. You hold them accountable because you care about them and you want them to excel in life.
I love that, because it sounds to me like you and the Kelly Auto Group, that you guys take a holistic view of an employee. It isn't just, hey, what can you do for me today? Hey, you've got to work 6 days a week. I don't care because I have to make a jet payment. It's really about raising a great team and really having a good place to work.
Well, we're big believers that when you treat your team that way, then they're going to treat our customers that come in the same way. They're going to treat them with that same mindset. And we remind them, hey, listen, customers come in and they're a little defensive. And they don't do this every day. And our job is to make it easy for them and make the process and let them know we want to make sure that we want to do what's best for them. And ultimately, when we do what's best for them, it's also best for us. And that's a win-win for everybody.
That's right. So you and I have a very good mutual friend who is out And he's also a fellow board member of yours. Congratulations, by the way, for women in automotive. God, I love these guys who are stepping up and supporting the women in automotive. See me divert. Mr. Brian Benstock. And he's out talking about the future is frictionless. What is your take on a frictionless consumer experience in the next 5 years in the automotive industry? I took a hard left turn on you, I know.
Well, first of all, I want to let you know, I love watching and listening to Brian whenever I could, whenever I'm at a conference and he's speaking. I visited his store twice. I think he does an amazing job. He's a great role for people in the auto industry. So Brian, congratulations on everything you're doing. And I believe he has his own podcast. So, we believe that, it still comes down to people. We do believe there's going to be a certain percent of people. And I remember back in the Saturn days, everybody was saying everything is going to be one price. There will be no more negotiation. That was back in 91 that everybody said that was going to happen. Is there going to be a certain percent of people that want to buy online and have you deliver it to their home? Absolutely, that's going to happen. What percentage that will be, I don't know, but I know we better be prepared for it. And I know that our team better understand what to do and how to do it. We don't know if that's going to be 10%. Or I don't know if that's going to be 80% in the future. All I know is that every dealer should be prepared and make sure that you're ready, that you have your inner team prepared, that you are looking at every single angle and realizing that things will change. How much they will change, I don't know. I do know in 91 and 92, everybody thought that the stores were going to be one price at one point, and that didn't happen. I still believe people like to touch and feel a vehicle. A lot of people. There's a certain percent that are going to want to have it delivered right to their house because they have a good understanding and they've driven that type of vehicle for many years.
Yeah, and Brian and I have had the conversation before that I wonder if part of it is where you live in the country. I mean, he's in a highly dense New York, hustle bustle, hard to get anywhere, whatever. So the convenience of bring it to me, bring it back, like that's like, oh, thank God, right? And I just wonder if in a more rural area or.
Well, I will tell you that, yeah, when I first visited his store, originally I heard how well they did. I'm picturing this big store with a huge parking lot.
Right.
I was even more amazed when I went to visit the store that he could do what he's doing in that area. So I would tell you in his area, it's going to be much more prevalent. Absolutely, it's going to be more prevalent in his area. In Melbourne, Florida, where I'm at, it's a beach town. I believe it's not going to be the same as it is in Bryan is, same area. People like to come in.
I know. I can remember showing up.
There's going to be a certain percent, but it won't.
Yeah, that's what I think too. I think it could be different parts of the country.
Bryan's area.
Yeah, because I remember pulling up to his store and I'm like, I walked in, I'm like, where's the rest of it? Like, seriously, how do you guys deliver 1,100 cars a month? Where is the rest of this store? But I mean, they're just the other rock stars.
There's somebody that just went outside the norm. And he just thought about, say, how do we do this? And they just kept coming up with different processes.
Well, and and part of what he said, I think, is really powerful, and I think it's a powerful message to everybody out there. It's he said that he started this journey for self-preservation, in the fact that in the climate he was living in, somebody was going to have to go, and thank God it was Manhattan for him. And that his store in Queens was able to capture that market share. So, but I do think different parts of the country are different, and due to density, just due to mindset, right? When you're in New York, they're just a little more up to, I love New York, so I'm not knocking it, but just go, 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 go. Whereas in the beach town, it might not be as important. I can tell you that my Mercedes has had a light on for 6 months. And I literally sent a picture of it to my dear friend who's the general manager. And he's like, I'm going to come pick up your car. Like, seriously, Lisa, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, I don't know. I'm not that worried about it. Like, I'm a car dealer. So I do think that people have different, have different mindsets. So what is your prediction for the automotive industry? And then let's just say the next 3 years in your part of the world, in Florida, because I do think it is different in every part of the country.
Well, we have stores in Florida and Pennsylvania, but in Florida, I will tell you the community I'm in, it continues to grow. It's Brevard County, Orlando. You're close to Fort Lauderdale. You're really, I call it a Cinderella town where you're not overpopulated with dealers right now, but and the population is growing. So I predict in this market it's going to continue to grow. I think the community is growing. If you look at Brevard County, Satellite Beach, that whole continues to grow. Of course, the Northeast has always been over dealered. When we had a Ford store there, we had, I think within 7 miles, we had 4 different Ford stores in 7 miles. So that's a different mindset when you're in the Northeast region.
Yes.
But I think internet is going to continue. It's going to continue to keep growing. Communication, doing video, talking just like we're doing now, sending videos of the car beforehand. All that's going to continue. You're going to have more people doing research beforehand. We start delivering cars to people's houses. Again, I don't know if that's going to end up being 50%, 80%, or 10% down the road. I do believe that in the markets I'm in, people are still going to want to come in and drive those cars. What percent? I don't know. I know where Brian's at. I would tell you that I could see that being 90% in his area.
A Honda is a Honda. I mean, seriously.
Mm-hmm.
That's just it. And so is a Ford is a Ford. Funny story, the whole world, what I call is the on-demand world with Prime. And of course, I do everything on Prime. Like, I don't want to carry my water from the shelf into the cart, onto the thing, into my car, into my house. Like, boo. I don't care what it costs, but I get these huge cases of water delivered to my house. And so the other day, my husband says, I got a Prime membership. I'm like, oh, hey, welcome to the year 2018. I said, you could have used mine. Well, I wanted my own. And he goes, I want to let you know something. The smoke detectors I was going to buy before I had Prime were $33 plus $5 shipping. Then when I joined Prime, they were $38 with no shipping. Lisa, you have been duped. And I said, James, you're not a Prime customer. End of story. I don't care what it costs, right? We're paying for frictionless. We're paying for convenience. And I'm paying not to have to schlep the water around. And I just think that that's going to be the mindset of the online shopper.
I agree. My daughter and my son-in-law, I was visiting this weekend. I think they had 6 boxes delivered. It was there, dropped off. So it's easy for them rather than them driving all over to do things. So I believe that. I do believe when it comes to service also, I do believe that you're going to have more people picking up cars at dealership, at their homes and bringing them. I believe everything is about convenience.
And that's
and we're going to have to get the time down.
Yeah, and I think that's going to be the competitive advantage. Like I even think now, because I think about like there's only, I don't want to trade time for money. So if I want to work 6 hours a day, which is what I try to do if I'm not traveling, then I think, well, I don't want to spend the other 2 grocery shopping. That's dumb. So I'll wake up 30 minutes early. I'll order my groceries, and sometime during that 6 hours, my groceries are going to be shopped for, delivered at my house, and put away in my kitchen. And I've just now doubled my time. And I just think that people think like that now. On top of the fact, it's created an entire cottage industry of delivery drivers. So I feel like I'm doing a good thing for America. I'm making America great again. I'm putting them to work.
I will tell you what I believe much easier. I mean, it makes the process easier. Not only it makes it easier for the dealership when you agree online on a price and they're going to come pick it up, or you're going to drop it to their house. But we still have many people wanting to come in and they just want to do a walk around. Yeah. It's faster. I know there's some folks that I talk to that have been doing this for years that they complain about it, and it makes everything easier and faster, and it helps with relationships.
Yeah. I think it's just, I think it's that we have, in an on-demand society, I think we've got to serve up the way the customer wants it. So if the customer wants to go pick it up, like my husband who thinks he's being duped, it's still the same price, but just the fact that he thinks that now they're duping him, he will never use Amazon again, and he will drive all over town to save $5. I'll pay $20 more. I don't care. I want it when I want it, how I want it, right? And I think that that's the way that the world is going around in retailing and in everything else. So as we close up, I believe
many people think like us, but there are going to be still some people that think like your husband.
Yes. Are you one of those people, Chris? Because I'm going to take you off my favorite person list if that's the case. Because Amazon is shipping all those books of yours, that best-selling book of yours, Theory of Five, it is shipping them out. And they might even charge $1 extra to get it to somebody. But that's better than me having to go down to Barnes & Noble.
It's funny, Lisa, when we first got on, she said, do you have that were completed? I said, I sold them all out, and I apologize. I don't have, I have a copy of the book that I'm holding up for everybody, but go to theoryoffive.com. You can get the hardcover or soft cover, and you go to Amazon, the ebook, and the right now we do have it on sale for 99 cents, the ebook, and then you have also the soft cover you can get on Theory of Five. And I believe in my heart that if you read it, you're going to love it, and there's somebody that's going to want it. And you asked me earlier, Lisa, you asked me the target audience when we were talking the other day, and I really believe that if you have somebody that's a graduate from high school or college, that 18 to 40-year-old person, I believe it's a great book for everybody, but I believe specifically for that group that if they read, you're getting married or just realizing the pros and cons and the challenges you have in marriage. It's like any relationship. Marriage, if it was easy, you wouldn't have a 50% divorce rate. And it just like you have to work to be great at work, you got to work in everything you do in life. You got to work to be great at it. And it's always easy to have support and have other people out there supporting you in all areas of your life.
So what would be your advice to people who are watching today? How do you build a tribe?
Well, each person is funny. When I was talking to different people that are interviewed in the Theory of Five, people did it different. Like Chip Perry said, Chris, I never asked anybody to be my mentor. It just happened naturally. We became friends and people that we admired one another, and we started to help one another and learn from one another. So it could happen that way, sports and business many times, or it could be asked. I think what happens if you're younger out there, when I say younger, if you're somebody under 30 years old, what you don't realize is that there are people that in my age group that are in their 50s and older, they love helping young, enthusiastic people that want to be great. They love to see people excel that are youthful, that want to excel in life and work hard and are asking lots of questions. So it's simply that if you don't have anyone, ask. Ask somebody, because most people enjoy helping people. But once you ask, make sure you're ready to do the work. Make sure you're ready to put the time in, and make sure you show appreciation and gratitude.
Well, and I want to add something to that, because I do speak a lot about mentoring, and mentors don't necessarily have to be, okay, we're going to meet every Wednesday at 1 o'clock. So there's a mentor and then there's a role model. And one of my dearest friends has launched a 4-minute audio for women, and it's called On the Dot Woman, but it's 4 minutes of relatable role models, right? And so, don't go into it, this audience that's listening to this right now, thinking, okay, if Lisa can't meet me every Wednesday at 1, then she can't be my mentor. Maybe she might just be your role model, or maybe it's once a quarter you have a telephone call. I have a little girl that's going to be on my show next week. Her name is Ever, E-V-E-R. She's 9 years old, and she's got her own charity trying to stop hunger for children. And she and I were speaking at the same event. It was like, I spoke first and then she came on and closed. It was crazy. This little girl's amazing. And she came up to me afterwards and she said, would you be my mentor? And I was so blown back. And I said, yes, because you asked. And then she texted me the other night and she said, well, I'd like to set up a phone call. I'd like to be on your show. Oh, and by the way, I graduated from 3rd grade today. I was like, oh my God. And so, so maybe it's just a phone call. Maybe it's just a lunch every quarter. So I just, I want to help people put that in perspective, because Chris, I'm sure it's happened to you too. People come up and they're like, okay, I want you to be my mentor, but it needs to be, once a week. And typically people that make great mentors don't have that sort of flexibility in a schedule. So, I would say you can have more than one mentor. You can have several mentors, several people that you trust for advice.
And in today's world, I actually think between mentor and role model, it's easier to learn and be inspired now more than ever. Look at right now. There's people that are going to be watching this. They're going to say, you know what, I like that. There's people going to be watching you every week, Lisa. Many areas to learn. There's so many podcasts. There's so much out there for people today, now more than ever, to learn and just watch and be inspired by other people. It doesn't have to be, as you said, the mentor. It could be a role model, somebody you just watch from afar and say, you know what, that person motivates me and inspires me to want to be a better person in this area of my life.
Yeah, no, I love that you said that. And that's true. And like you said, most people, you know, they want to help. And, you know, I'll tell you, when this 9-year-old young woman who I believe is going to change the world, when she came up to me afterwards, I was so, and like, I love texting with her. And she said, you know, a couple weeks ago, she goes, I just finished reading your book. I'm like, you're in 3rd grade. So, you know, I mean, greatness can start at any point in any time, and you can change, but you have to decide, like you said, you have to commit to do the work, meaning that I don't want to give someone advice and then they go off the other end. Like, I'm probably not going to give them advice much longer. What kind of advice would you have? If somebody says, yes, I'll mentor you, what would you tell that mentee? I
would let them know that, that it's not going to be easy. That the things we're going to talk about, if it was easy, everybody would be doing it, and that I would be very happy to sit down with them. And it wouldn't have to be a time. It could be by phone. It could be a quick email, text. Review with. If I'm mentoring somebody, I want to see that they're actually doing what we're talking about, or at least putting effort into it. Not that they're just taking my time, because
right.
Time for everybody out there is valuable. But I would tell you, there's nothing more exciting, I believe, is you know, our world is all based on youth and growing, and the mindset of helping somebody, just like people have helped you and me, Lisa. Yeah. It's no different than helping somebody else. And if we could help, if we could support, you know, 10 people, 1,000 people, or thousands of people in their mindset as far as wanting to be the best in those 5 areas, that's the best legacy that any of us could have, because the mentor also gets something out of it. Because when you teach, you internalize. And when you internalize, what it does, it holds you accountable to live what you're talking about. Because if we don't live what we're saying, then we're hypocrites. Right. And so we have to walk. And that's why it's important to, when you're mentoring, to realize, hey, if you're teaching, you better internalize and you better live this.
You know, one of the things I say is that your legacy is not your end of life story, but it's your everyday story. So the good news about that is you can fix it, you can change it, you can make it larger, you can expand it. So that's encouraging. And so, Chris, I'm so proud of you. I'm proud to call you friend, but I'm so proud that you took this journey. You wrote this book.
Thank you.
I mean, I know that you are going to change lives, rock worlds. I'm going to put links up on the show. This is going to be on Facebook Live. It's going to be on the Binge TV network, and it's going to be on Apple and iTunes. And so, Chris, there'll be all kinds of links for people to go out and buy this book. But I'm going to tell everybody out there, I know this man personally, and he walks his talk, and what he's lived through in the last couple of years, to take all of that and something that he has had in his heart and his soul since 1984 and make this book. I'm so proud. Number 7 on Amazon, day 1. Like, that's a super big deal. My book didn't go to number 7 on Amazon day 1. I don't know that it ever went to number 7. So I do this to you, my friend. And
everybody that was part of it, we're thrilled, and we're very excited for that, and pleased that there. And more than anything is I'm honored to be on the show, and I thank you for inviting me. And Lisa, I really the best I could.
You're welcome. And I just want to give one more shout out as the official welcome as a board member myself of the Women in Automotive. I want to welcome you. And we spoke about Chip Perry earlier, who is the head of TrueCar. He's the CEO or president. President, I think, of TrueCar. You and Chip Perry and Mr. Benstock, VP of Paragon Honda, all 3 of you are unselfishly serving on the board alongside of us for Women in Automotive. And, you know, you guys are just a bunch of guys that get it, and you're world changers, and I just appreciate your friendship. And I wish you continued success. Everybody out there, buy the book, okay? Kids are graduating. People are graduating. People need hope in the world today. They need something that isn't just, you know, a story. This, you know, they're going to, you know, Chris's book is going to give you the 5 steps, the 5, you know, the 5 pieces of your life that if you're great at 3, you can work on 2. And he's going to give you the steps to be able to, you know, take your life and your legacy to the next level. Anyways, Chris, thank you, my friend. Continued success. Will I see you in Orlando at Women in Automotive?
You will. I'm looking forward to seeing.
Good. See, it just makes me happy. I got to see him in Orlando at Digital Dealer. We were on a speaking panel together, and now I get to see you back in Orlando at Women in Automotive week after next. Bring some books, okay? Because I might be able to sell a few for you. One of us is a car salesman here.
Absolutely.
Because I would have had 6 of my books propped up right now. Right,
I know you would have, yes.
I know.
A lesson learned on my part. Thank you very much.
I don't have any books. I sold them all, Lisa. I'm sorry. Never be sorry about selling out of books, my friend. Never be sorry. But bring some to Orlando, and I will see you, I guess, June 21st.
Yes.
All right. Absolutely. We'll see you then.
I'll see you then. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.